Alright, Valve, pop quiz time. Is SteamOS ready for prime time? How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware. I hope you're having a great week playing a ton of video games. And yeah, for today's video, I want to answer a simple question. Can I fully ditch Windows in favor of SteamOS on my main gaming PC? If you haven't followed along with this saga, way back like 6 months ago, I bought a PC on Facebook Marketplace. I put SteamOS on it. I determined that it was not ready to be used on a desktop PC, which was fair because, you know, it was built for handhelds at that time. But now with the announcement of the Steam Machine, it's going to be built for desktop PCs. It's going to be an operating system that's not exclusively built for gaming, but will be able to do pretty much anything you want on the desktop side. So with that being a few months out, I wiped the dual boot SSD that I had set up for Windows 11 and Bazite and only put SteamOS on it. I've been using it for over a week as my main gaming PC in addition to my Steam Deck, of course, and I'm not even going to bury the lead. It has been an excellent experience. The reason I'm doing this now and not 6 months ago when I got this PC is because, again, 6 months ago, SteamOS wasn't ready, but also in the time in between then and now, I upgraded the PC. I added a 9070 XT and a 9800 X3D CPU, and for most of that time, they haven't supported RDNA 4 graphics cards. So whether I wanted to use SteamOS or not, didn't matter. I had to use Bazite if I wanted that experience. But in a recent interview with PC Gamer, Valve said they want people to install SteamOS on a PC with a 9070 XT, and then I googled it and it turns out a couple of months ago they added support. If you want to do this yourself, it couldn't be simpler. I will recommend doing it on an AMD CPU and GPU computer. It does work with some Intel chips, but I've seen that performance is not up to par. So if you've got an AMD CPU and GPU, I highly recommend doing this. All you got to do is click the link I have down in the description, download that file, and use a piece of software like Balena Etcher on Mac to flash it to a USB stick, boot from that, and then install SteamOS. The entire process took me 10 minutes to wipe Bazite and Windows 11 off the SSD in my computer, install SteamOS, update it, log in, I was good to go. And unlike 6 months ago, everything worked perfectly. My wireless keyboard connected right to the PC with its wireless dongle. I was able to log into Steam, turn on Bluetooth, connect my DualSense Edge. Everything worked great there. And when it comes to the 2 extra SSDs I had with all my games on them, even though they were set up for Bazite and Windows before, it populated immediately, automatically with all the games I had installed. So I didn't have to sit there and re-download all my games. So the entire process of switching is not scary or weird or difficult at all. You just install SteamOS, update it, and you're good to go. And that was kind of surprising because the tutorials I read made me think that I'd have to install an older version of SteamOS that didn't have the right drivers and use my motherboard's HDMI port to update SteamOS, and then I could plug it into the graphics card. But since I used the latest version of the SteamOS recovery image, all those drivers were there right from the jump, so I could use it, install it, and just leave everything plugged in as it was before. So the process, again, so simple and so easy. Once I had SteamOS installed, I tried a bunch of games. I had 0 issues. I tried Borderlands 4, I tried Metal Gear Solid Delta, I tried Silent Hill 2 Remake, I tried Elden Ring Night Rain. Every game passed with flying colors, 1440p, maxed out, 60 FPS with the built-in frame limiter. It was amazing. I'm not going to get into an extended benchmark thing here though, because there are better YouTubers doing that already. So with the gaming side of things covered, I decided to dig into the desktop side of things and see if SteamOS is up to par with Windows, Bazite, and Mac OS. Because if you didn't know, I do everything myself. I was taught how to edit in Final Cut Pro. You need a Mac to use Final Cut Pro. I like that software and it's not available on Linux. So for me, my 2 PCs are this one and my MacBook Pro. I'm sticking with that, but my main PC is the one that I'm using SteamOS on. So if you're a PC gamer, you probably play multiplayer games, which means you use Discord to talk to your friends. I can tell you straight up, it works flawlessly. You just download it from the Discover store, you install it, you log in, you find it in your app tray, you right click it, you add it to Steam. You can then go through the process of adding art, but if you don't want to do that, it works fine out of the box. But I was even happier to find out that I didn't need a mouse and keyboard because SteamOS comes with Steam input. So for Discord, I told it just for that game to consider my controller to be a keyboard and mouse setup so I can use the joystick to put the mouse anywhere I want on the screen. I click with right 2, I can enter, exit, type, do whatever I want with the controller without ever needing to use my wireless keyboard. I could essentially turn that thing off and throw it in a drawer and be just fine. And that goes for interacting with the desktop itself too, because when you switch to desktop mode, Steam automatically opens. Your cursor is able to be controlled the exact same way that I I use Discord. So even if you need to type anything like into the web browser or something like that, hitting the Steam button and square or X, depending on what controller you're using, that pulls up the keyboard and it works like a PS5's keyboard or any other console. So that's great. And the cool thing is game mode on SteamOS works excellently. You can run multiple apps at the same time. So if I run Discord in the background and a game at the same time, zero performance issues at all. And I can hear everyone talking to me. I really like the Pulse Elite headphones for the PlayStation 5. They come with a PlayStation Link adapter. I put that adapter in the PC's USB port, connected right away. The PC knew exactly what I was connected to, and I got independent volume control within SteamOS. Discord was able to recognize it based on what I was using as the default on SteamOS. Virtually zero issues there. I tried my SteelSeries Arctis Game Buds. Those worked fine as well. And as far as controllers go, because again, you have Steam input, you can use a DualSense, you can use a Series X controller, you can use an 8-bit Do Ultimate 2, you can use the original Nintendo Switch controller or two Joy-Cons paired together. All of that is built into SteamOS, and Valve is so on top of it that they had the analog 3D controller supported before the thing's release date was even announced. One piece of constructive feedback for Valve here: when you tab over to non-Steam games for the first time in game mode, it says, hey, do you want to install Chrome? And yeah, that's cool, but you also get Firefox right out of the box, so who needs two browsers? I think they need to figure out how to either ship the Steam machine with Discord installed or just make it a SteamOS feature altogether, because that could be useful on the Steam Deck as well. And I'd assume that, like, if you did a survey, 99% of people who have a Steam Deck or SteamOS installed install Discord as their first app. Like, I don't think there'd be any issue with just pre-installing that, so hopefully they have that on their list. Since this thing is my living room PC, I wanted to watch YouTube on it because it's my main form of entertainment. I'm a YouTuber who loves watching YouTube. It's great. And I was really happy to find a free app that's basically the Android TV or Apple TV app of YouTube cloned to Linux. So you can add that to Steam as a non-Steam game and launch that from game mode and play YouTube videos in the background in addition to Discord, in addition to a game. And if you're a streamer or a YouTuber, or you just like clipping out footage of your games, you can either use Steam's built-in recording, but I would caution you, if you're on a mid-range build or a low-end build, to use OBS. That's free in the Discover store and it uses way less resources than the Steam built-in recording. But since I have such a top-end PC setup with that graphics card and processor, I can use the built-in recording just fine without having any hiccups at all in terms of frame rate or stuttering. And even basic stuff like note-taking, I switched from Apple Notes over to Obsidian. I pay $48 a year to get the sync. The Obsidian app on SteamOS works excellently. It syncs everything from my PC to my phone and then to my MacBook, so I can get access to all of my notes instantly, which is great for my video bullet points because I don't script anything. And if you're someone who likes to keep up with the latest and greatest games and you play games that are made in Unreal Engine 5, like Silent Hill F, like Metal Gear Solid Delta, like Tokyo Extreme Racer, more and more games all the time, including Expedition 33, are using Unreal Engine 5, and they all have the same issues: traversal stutter, shader compilation stutter, and general FPS drops across the board. The same benefits you get on the Steam Deck, where it evens some of that out, extend over to desktop PCs. I was kind of curious if this would happen, but if you didn't know, the Steam Deck can download shaders from the cloud, right? Like if someone played Silent Hill 2 before you, their shaders would upload to the cloud, and because you're using the same hardware as them, you'll be able to download them when you start the game. I didn't know if like RAM or SSD or any of the extra fluff parts that you put in a PC would influence this, but it turns out they don't, because when I set up this computer and installed all my games, the first time I launch any game, it downloads the shaders. So it's finding shaders for Indiana Jones, for example, from someone else who has a 9800 X3D and 9070 XT. So the more people who have your graphics card and CPU combo, the more easy it's going to be to get the shaders. But even if you have a bizarre combo, you still get the fallback of Vulkan shaders. This is where I ran into a little bit of an issue. It takes forever to process Vulkan shaders. Even with my top end hardware, it can take up to 10 or 15 minutes. Thankfully, once it does that the first time, if it has to download new shaders, it just downloads those new shaders after that. And 99% of the time, once you go through it once, you never have to go through it again. And another issue I ran into playing games is that if a game like Indiana Jones, I'm talking about that a lot because I played it the most recently, has a Steam Deck graphics preset, because you're on SteamOS and they haven't fully shipped the desktop version yet, it'll think you're on a Steam Deck. And because that game has a deck Deck preset, it locks you into using the Steam Deck's textures. All you have to do to fix that is go to the game's properties and put in the command Steam Deck equals 0 space %command %. Once you do that, it goes, oh, they're using SteamOS on a PC. It unlocks all the settings, everything works. But you know, it is annoying that one of the best things about the Steam Deck, which is deck specific presets, locks you into that preset unless you do a little bit of tinkering behind the scenes, which, you know, it's made to be a console replacement in your living room. So having to do extra stuff like that isn't that fun. But I'm assuming that once the Steam Machine is out and the desktop version of SteamOS comes with it, that will resolve itself. It'll be able to say, oh, you're not on a Steam Deck, you're on a PC. Like when I was installing SteamOS, it said my battery was low. And it's like, yeah, because I don't have one. This is a PC plugged into the wall. All of that will be resolved. But I'm happy to say that those are just the two minor issues I ran into across hours and hours of gaming on this thing. So if you're at this point in the video, you're probably like, why didn't this guy sell his Razer Blade with Windows? And there's two reasons. First of all, this isn't going to shock anyone, anti-cheat. I love playing Battlefield 6. It's the game I play to talk to my friends. It's our chat room. So every night we run some Conquest, we run some Breakthrough. Battlefield 6 does not work on SteamOS, but really that's the only multiplayer game I play that doesn't work, but I like playing it enough to where I want to keep around my Razer Blade laptop so I can get into the game with my friends. And also, if you're new here, I'm really into cars. I'm really into racing games. I have a racing wheel set up from Moza. Allegedly, you can use the Moza Pit House app on Linux, but it feels like Chinese spyware. It's already installed on my Windows PC. I'd rather just keep it there, already set up and ready to go with all my games, because since it's kind of like a third-party wheel, you have to manually map every button for every game you play, and I have that all figured out, so I don't want to give that up. But with those two issues keeping me chained to Windows for now, it dramatically lessens the amount of time I have to spend on Windows, being able to do all the stuff I do on a desktop on my SteamOS PC. And if I woke up broke tomorrow and needed to sell one of my PCs, without hesitation, I would sell the Windows PC. I think my friends would understand if I stopped playing Battlefield, because I'd have bigger issues to solve since I was broke. And also, I could lose the sim rig setup for a little bit, or just go through the effort to set it up and deal with Moza's shitty app. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, if you've got an AMD PC, I'd say we're in no-brainer territory on switching from Windows to SteamOS, unless, you know, you play GTA, Call of Duty, and Battlefield 6 exclusively and don't play any other games. But I doubt you're in the market if you're that kind of person, because you're probably aware of the anti-cheat issues. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you're not out of luck. You can get 99% the exact same experience installing Bazite. I had some people ask me on the Deck Ready Twitter, which is deck_ready, why I don't just stick with Bazite. I like Valve, I like Steam. I think a big reason people use Bazite is because it weirds them out that this version of Linux, SteamOS, is made by a company and Bazite isn't. It's made by a bunch of passionate people. If you prefer to use that, more power to you. I just prefer to use SteamOS because I like the Steam Deck, I like Valve, I like everything they're doing with SteamOS, and I've liked being there from the jump to see every single upgrade as it happened. Like, I was there day one. Actually, I started this channel before day one, so I feel emotionally tied to SteamOS, and I have a weird OCD thing where it always felt weird playing SteamOS on my Steam Deck and Bazite on this PC, even though they're functionally the same thing. So yeah, the recovery image I used, again, is linked down in the description. That's only really relevant if you're using a newer RDNA 4 card. If you have like a 5700X or 7900 XTX, you can use the recovery image that's on the Steam website. But either way, it's going to work fine if you use the one I linked, so save yourself some time and use that. And if you do decide to make the jump, hit me up on Steam at randomhero1270. I'm always around to answer questions. If I'm in a game, I might not answer immediately, but I have a dedicated hour every day to answer Steam messages, so I can give you some support if you need it. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.